6 months after New Cascadia burned, the people of Earth were still angry. The anger had not cooled. It had grown hotter. It had become something hard and sharp, like a blade being forged in fire. The Vorthan Dominion sent a message to Earth. They expected the humans to beg for mercy. They expected the humans to promise to stay away from Vorthan space. They had crushed many species before. All of them had begged in the end. The human response was different. A single ship appeared at the edge of Vorthan space. It was small and black and made no attempt to hide. When the Vorthans tried to contact it, they received only one transmission. It was a list of names. 12,000 names. Every person who had died on New Cascadia. At the end of the list were 3 words. We are coming. High Commander Zrel laughed when he heard about this. He called his officers together and showed them the message. These humans are stupid, he said. One small ship against our entire dominion. They must want to die. His officers laughed with him. They had ruled this part of the galaxy for 10,000 years. They had destroyed species that were stronger than humans. What could these soft, short-lived creatures do to them? They found out 2 weeks later. The human ship was called the Relentless. Its captain was a man named Ryan Scott. He was 34 years old. His parents had retired to New Cascadia. They had died in the attack. He had watched the footage of the massacre 17 times. He had memorized the faces of the Vorthon commanders who had laughed. The Relentless was a new type of ship. It was built for one purpose, to hurt the enemy and disappear. It had no weapons that could destroy a planet. It had no shields that could stop a Vorthon fleet. But it had something else. It had a singularity bomb. Ryan guided his ship through Vorthon space like a ghost. The Vorthans had good sensors, but the Relentless was designed to avoid them. It took 3 weeks to reach the target, the largest Vorthan shipyard in the sector. 1,400 warships were being built or repaired there. It was the heart of Vorthan military power. Captain, his first officer said, we are in position. Ryan looked at the shipyard through his view screen. It was huge. Lights blinked across its surface. Vorthan workers moved between ships. None of them knew that death was watching them. Ryan thought about his parents. He thought about the laughing Vorthan commanders. He thought about all the children who would never grow up because of what these creatures had done. He pressed the button. The singularity bomb was a terrible weapon. It created a tiny black hole that lasted for only a few seconds. But in those few seconds, it pulled everything nearby into itself. The shipyard, the 1,400 warships, the workers, the supplies, everything was compressed into a space smaller than a coin. Then the black hole collapsed, and there was nothing left but empty space. The Relentless turned and ran. By the time the Vorthans realized what had happened, Ryan and his crew were already gone. Back on Earth, a new organization had been created. They called it the Office of Perpetual Remembrance. Its job was simple, to make sure humanity never forgot what had been done to them, and to make sure the ones responsible never stopped paying for it. Dr. Catherine Wells was the head of this office. She was 52 years old and had spent her life studying war. Not how to win wars, but how wars ended. She knew that most wars ended with peace treaties. The winners got what they wanted. The losers accepted their defeat, and everyone moved forward. Catherine decided that this war would be different. Other species fight until they get tired, she told the Earth Council. They fight until the cost becomes too high. Then they stop. They make peace. They forget. We will not do this. We will never get tired. We will never stop. We will never forget. The council members listened carefully. What exactly are you proposing? The president asked. Catherine stood up and walked to the main screen. She showed them a map of Vorthan space. It was huge. The Dominion controlled hundreds of star systems. We cannot defeat them in open battle, she said. They have more ships, more soldiers, more resources, but we do not need to defeat them in open battle. We need to make them afraid. We need to make them understand that attacking humanity was the worst mistake they ever made. The map changed. Red dots appeared throughout Vorthan space. These are their weak points. Shipyards, supply stations, communication centers, military bases. We will hit them one by one, not in a great attack, but slowly, patiently, year after year, decade after decade, century after century if necessary. An old admiral spoke up. You are talking about a war that could last longer than any of us will live. Yes, Catherine said, that is exactly what I am talking about. Our children will continue this war, and their children after that, until the Vorthans are gone. The room was silent. They killed 12,000 of our people, Catherine continued. They laughed while they did it. They thought we would be too weak and too scared to respond. We are going to show them what humanity does to those who hurt our families. The vote was not immediate this time. The council members argued for days. Some thought the plan was too extreme. Others worried about the cost. But in the end, they remembered the footage from New Cascadia. They remembered the screaming children. They remembered the laughing Vorthons. The vote passed. News of the shipyard destruction reached the Vorthon Dominion quickly. High Commander Zrel could not believe it at first. 1,400 ships, gone in an instant. It was impossible. Find the humans responsible, he ordered. Destroy them. But the humans were already gone, and more attacks were coming. Over the next year, human ships struck again and again. A fuel depot exploded. A military academy was vaporized. A communication station went dark and never came back online. Each time, the humans left the same message, a list of names from New Cascadia. Zrel demanded a meeting with human leaders. He expected them to negotiate. He was willing to offer some small payment to make the attack stop. Perhaps territory, or technology, or even prisoners. That was how these things worked. The humans refused to meet. He tried again, offering more. He offered to return the bodies of the dead from New Cascadia. He offered to execute the officers who had carried out the attack. He offered almost anything they might want. The human response was always the same. We do not negotiate with those who murder our children. For the first time in his long life, Zrel felt something unfamiliar. It took him a while to recognize it. It was fear. He sent a message to the Galactic Council, the great assembly of alien species that tried to keep peace in the galaxy. He asked them to intervene. The humans have gone mad, he told them. They will not talk. They will not negotiate. They only attack and disappear. This is not how civilized species behave. The Galactic Council sent a representative to Earth. Her name was Ambassador Thren, and she was from a species called the Sylvani. They were known for being calm and logical. She met with Catherine Wells in a simple office in Geneva. The Vorthans want peace, Thren said. They are willing to make significant payments. Perhaps we can find a solution that satisfies everyone. Catherine looked at her with cold eyes. Ambassador, do you know what the Vorthans did to New Cascadia? I have read the reports, Thren replied. Reading is not enough. Catherine turned on a screen. Watch. For the next 47 minutes, Thren watched the complete footage from New Cascadia. She saw the attack from beginning to end. She heard the screams. She saw the children burning. She saw the Vorthan commanders laughing. When it was over, Thren sat very still. Now you understand, Catherine said. There will be no peace. There will be no negotiation. There will be no end until the Vorthans are gone. Thren was quiet for a long moment. Then she spoke carefully. Dr. Wells, the Vorthan Dominion is powerful. They have ruled for 10,000 years. What makes you think humanity can destroy them? Catherine smiled. but there was no warmth in it. Because they think war has rules. They think there is a point where the enemy gives up. They do not understand what we are. We are not soldiers following orders. We are a species that has just learned what happens to our children when we are weak. We will never be weak again. And we will never, ever stop. Thren returned to the Galactic Council with her report. Her conclusion was simple. Do not get involved. The humans cannot be reasoned with on this matter. Let the Vorthans face the consequences of their actions alone. The galaxy watched and waited to see what would happen next. 20 years had passed since New Cascadia burned. 20 years of war. 20 years of death. 20 years of human patience. The Vorthan Dominion was not what it used to be. They had lost 60% of their territory. Not to invasion. Humans did not want their planets. They lost it because they could not protect it anymore. Their military was broken. Their economy was failing. Their people lived in fear. Colonel Amanda Collins stood on the bridge of her ship and looked at the planet below. It was a Vorthan military world. Thousands of soldiers trained there. Weapons were manufactured there. It was an important target. Amanda was 41 years old. She had joined the military the day after her 18th birthday. Her older brother had been on New Cascadia. He had been a teacher at the school. His body was never recovered. She commanded the Ghost Battalion. They were the most feared unit in the human military. Every soldier in the battalion had lost someone to the Vorthans. They did not fight for glory or medals. They fought for revenge. Colonel, her second officer said, all teams are in position. Amanda nodded. Begin the operation. On the planet below, Vorthan soldiers went about their daily training. They practiced combat. They maintained their weapons. They ate their meals. They did not know that human soldiers had been on their planet for 3 weeks, watching and waiting. The first explosion destroyed the main barracks. The second took out the weapons factory. The third collapsed the communication tower. Within 10 minutes, the entire base was burning. Vorthan soldiers ran in confusion. They could not see their enemy. The humans had learned to fight in shadows, to strike and vanish before anyone could respond. By the time Vorthan reinforcements arrived, the Ghost Battalion was already gone. Not in great battles with thousands of ships. It was fought in small, deadly strikes that wore the enemy down bit by bit. The humans did not try to hold territory. They did not try to capture prisoners. They simply killed and disappeared. High Commander Zrel was dead. He had been killed 5 years after the war began. A human sniper had waited for 3 months in the ruins of a destroyed building, surviving on small amounts of food and water, just for one clean shot. The sniper had then walked calmly to an extraction point and escaped. The new Vorthan leader was called Supreme Commander Kyrell. He was younger than Zrel and had never known a time when the Dominion was not at war with humanity. He had tried everything to end the conflict. He had offered peace. The humans refused. He had offered to pay for the damage done to New Cascadia. The humans refused. He had offered to surrender completely. The humans refused that too. That last refusal shocked the galaxy. Every species understood surrender. When you surrendered, the war was over. The winner took what they wanted, and everyone moved on with their lives. But the humans did not accept surrender. We do not want your surrender, the human ambassador had said. We want you to not exist. Kyrell made a broadcast to the entire galaxy. His face appeared on screens across hundreds of worlds. His voice carried the weight of desperation. I am speaking to all species of the Galactic Council. The humans have become something we do not understand. They do not want our territory. They do not want our resources. They do not want our submission. They want only our destruction. This is madness. This is not how civilized beings conduct war. We ask for help. We ask for intervention. Please, someone must stop them. The Galactic Council debated for weeks. Some species felt sorry for the Vorthons. Others pointed out that the Vorthons had started this war by massacring innocent civilians. In the end, the Council decided to send another ambassador to Earth. This time, they sent Ambassador Nicole Bennett to speak for humanity. She was chosen because she was calm and clear and could explain human thinking to alien minds. She stood before the Council and waited for silence. "I understand that many of you are confused by human behavior," she began. "Let me explain." She pressed a button, and a picture appeared on the main screen. It was a picture of Earth from space, blue oceans, green lands, white clouds. This is our home. For most of our history, we were alone there. We fought each other. We made peace with each other. We learned how to live together despite our differences. When we came to the stars, we hoped to find friends. We hoped to find others who shared our dreams. The picture changed to show New Cascadia before the attack. Beautiful domes filled with life. This was our first great colony. 12,000 people lived there. Farmers, teachers, engineers, children. They built something wonderful. They were proud of what they had created. She pressed the button again. Now the screen showed New Cascadia burning. The Vorthons did not attack our military. They did not attack our government. They attacked our families. They burned our children, and they laughed while they did it. The room was very quiet. Many species have attacked humanity over the years. We have fought wars. We have made peace. We are capable of forgiveness. We are capable of moving forward. But there is one thing we cannot forgive. You can attack our soldiers. You can destroy our ships. You can even kill our leaders. We will fight back, and eventually we will make peace. But if you deliberately kill our innocent, especially our children, something changes inside us. She looked around the room at the alien faces watching her. On Earth, before we developed technology, we were not the strongest animals. We were not the fastest. We did not have sharp claws or thick armor. But we survived. We survived because we learned to hunt, not just for food, but for safety. When a predator killed one of us, we did not run away and hope it would leave us alone. We hunted it. We followed it for days, weeks, months if necessary. We never stopped until it was dead. She paused to let her words sink in. You could have traded with us. You could have argued with us. You could have competed with us. You could have even fought small wars with us. We are a reasonable species, but you chose to burn our children. Now you are learning why our ancestors climbed to the top of Earth's food chain. We do not forget. We do not forgive. We do not stop. A Vorthan representative stood up. This is barbaric. This is genocide. Nicole looked at him calmly. Yes, it is. Just like what you did to New Cascadia was genocide. The difference is that we did not start this. You did. You made a choice. Now you are living with the consequences. The council voted to stay neutral. They would not help the Vorthans. They would not help the humans. They would simply watch. Back in human space, the war continued. Amanda Collins led her Ghost Battalion on mission after mission. They struck supply lines. They destroyed factories. They killed commanders. They were ghosts that the Vorthans could not catch. Sometimes Amanda thought about what she was doing. She was not a cruel person. Before the war, she had wanted to be a doctor. She had wanted to help people. But that was before her brother died. That was before she watched the footage of children burning. She would keep fighting until the Vorthans were gone. However long it took, however many years she had left. One night, after a successful mission, one of her young soldiers asked her a question. Colonel, do you think we will ever stop? Do you think there will ever be peace? Amanda looked at him for a long moment. He was only 22 years old. He had been born after the war started. He had never known a time when humanity was not hunting the Vorthans. Yes, she said finally. There will be peace. When the last Vorthan is dead, there will be peace. The young soldier nodded. He understood. They all understood. This was not just a war. This was a promise. A promise made by the survivors of New Cascadia. A promise made by every human who had watched the footage of their children dying. A promise that would be kept no matter how long it took. The Vorthans had thought they were dealing with a normal species. They were dealing with humanity. And humanity never forgot. The year was 2412. 65 years had passed since New Cascadia burned. The Vorthan Dominion existed only in history books now. Their homeworld was a quarantined ruin. Human ships orbited it constantly, making sure no one entered and no one left. The cities that had once been filled with millions of Vorthans were empty. The great halls where their leaders had planned the destruction of New Cascadia were silent. The last Vorthan had died 3 months ago. His name was Kellar. He had been born 50 years after the war began. He had never known the Dominion in its glory days. He had only known running and hiding and fear. In the end, he was found in a small cave on a moon at the edge of explored space. He had been there for years, eating whatever he could find, drinking water from underground streams. When the human soldiers found him, he was old and weak and alone. They took him to a detention facility and gave him food and water and medical care. A human doctor named Patricia Lane visited him every day. She asked him questions about his life, about his people, about what he remembered. "Why?" Kellar asked one day. His voice was rough from years of not speaking. "Why did you not just kill me?" Patricia looked at him with eyes that were not cruel, but not kind either. "Because we wanted you to understand. We wanted you to live long enough to know that your species is gone. We wanted you to be the last one, alone, with no one to remember you when you die." Kellar was silent for a long moment. "We should not have attacked you," he said finally. "We should have left you alone." "Yes," Patricia agreed. "You should have." Kellar died 3 days later. He died of old age, in a bed, with no one beside him. The human guards recorded the exact moment. Then they sent the message to Earth. The Vorthon species was extinct. General Christopher Turner received the news in his office. He was 78 years old and had led the final campaigns against the Vorthons. He had spent most of his life at war. Now it was over. He expected to feel joy. He expected to feel satisfaction. Instead, he felt empty. He retired the next day. He bought a small house in the countryside and started a garden. He grew tomatoes and peppers and flowers. He refused all interviews. He did not want to talk about what he had done. Sometimes his grandchildren visited him. They would run through his garden and pick vegetables and ask him to tell them stories. He never told them stories about the war. He told them stories about other things, about his childhood, about his parents, about the Earth before humans went to the stars. One day, his granddaughter asked him about the Vorthons. She wanted to know what they were like. Christopher looked at her for a long time. She was 7 years old. The same age Sophie Price had been when New Cascadia burned. "They made a mistake," he said finally. "They thought we were weak. They were wrong." "Did you hate them, Grandpa?" Christopher thought about the question carefully. "No," he said. "I did not hate them. Hate is hot and fast. What I felt was different. It was cold and slow. It was the feeling of knowing that something had to be done and doing it year after year until it was finished." His granddaughter did not understand. She was too young. Maybe she would understand when she was older. Or maybe she would never have to understand. Maybe she would live in a galaxy where no one attacked human children. That was the hope anyway. Ambassador Patricia Lane traveled across the galaxy with a simple mission. She visited the capital worlds of every major species. She carried the same presentation to each one. The Keth hegemony was first. They were a proud warrior culture. Their leaders wore armor even in peacetime. They respected strength above all things. Patricia stood before their war council and began her presentation. 65 years ago, the Vorthan Dominion attacked a human colony called New Cascadia. 12,000 people died. Most of them were civilians. Many were children. She showed them the footage. She showed them the burning domes, the screaming people, the laughing Vorthan commanders. The Vorthan Dominion was one of the oldest and most powerful empires in this part of the galaxy. They had defeated countless species. They thought they could do the same to us. She pressed a button. The screen showed empty space, where the Vorthan homeworld had once been full of life. They were wrong. The Keth warriors watched in silence. This is what humanity does to those who murder our innocent. We do not fight with honor. We do not fight with rules. We fight until the enemy is gone. Not defeated, not conquered. Gone. She looked at them with calm eyes. I am not here to threaten you. I am here to explain. Humanity does not want war. We want to trade with you. We want to learn from you. We want to share what we know. We can be the best friends you have ever had. But if you ever attack our civilians, especially our children, we will become the worst enemies you can imagine, and we will never, ever stop. The Keth High Commander stood up. He was 8 feet tall and covered in battle scars. We understand, he said. We will remember. The next species was the Silvani Collective. They were cold and logical. They made decisions based on calculations and probabilities. Patricia gave them the same presentation. When it was over, the Silvani Council discussed the matter for exactly 12 minutes. Then their speaker announced their conclusion. We have calculated the cost-benefit ratio of conflict with humanity. The probability of success is near zero. The probability of total extinction is high. Conflict with humanity is statistically inadvisable under any circumstances. We will mark this in our records. The Ren Trading Federation was different. They were merchants, not warriors. They did not care about honor or statistics. They cared about profit. Their response was simple. They added a note to every trade document that involved human space. The note was short. Do not provoke. As Patricia traveled from world to world, a new phrase entered the galactic vocabulary. They called it human patience. But it did not mean what patience usually meant. It did not mean waiting calmly for something to happen. It meant something darker. It meant that humanity would wait a century, 2 centuries, however long it took, to deliver justice. Other species had fought long wars, but those wars always ended. Enemies became allies. Old wounds healed. Time made people forget. Humans were different. Humans built monuments to their dead. Humans taught their children to remember. Humans passed their anger down through generations, like a sacred fire that must never go out. The galaxy began to look at humanity with new eyes. Yes, they were friendly. Yes, they were helpful. Yes, they were generous. But underneath that kindness was something else, something ancient and primal, something that had helped them survive on a dangerous world long before they discovered fire or built their first tools. Humans were predators, not the kind that killed for food or territory, the kind that killed for revenge, the kind that never gave up, never forgot, never stopped hunting once the hunt began. One by one, every major species in the galaxy came to the same conclusion. Humanity was not worth attacking. The potential gain was never worth the certain loss. Some species resented this. They thought it was unfair that humans could do whatever they wanted without fear of retaliation. But when they complained, older species would show them the footage from New Cascadia. They would show them the empty space where the Vorthon Dominion used to be. You want to attack them? The older species would say. Go ahead, see what happens. We will watch from a safe distance. No one attacked. The decades passed. Humans built new colonies, new ships, new wonders. They traded with 100 species. They made friends and allies across the stars. They were kind and generous and helpful to anyone who treated them fairly. But every year, on the anniversary of New Cascadia's destruction, humans stopped whatever they were doing. They stood in silence for 47 minutes, 1 minute for each minute of the attack. They remembered the 12,000 who had died. They remembered the children who had burned. And every species in the galaxy watched them do it, and remembered why they had decided never to harm humanity. The lesson had been taught, the lesson had been learned. Do not hurt humanity. The year was 2500. 153 years had passed since New Cascadia burned. The galaxy had changed in ways that no one had expected. Admiral Sophie Price stood on the bridge of the Earth First Fleet flagship. She was old now, 160 years old, kept alive by human medical technology that had advanced far beyond what anyone had imagined. Her hair was white. Her face was lined with the marks of a long life, but her eyes were still sharp. She was the girl who had watched her world burn through a shuttle window. She was the child who had clutched a stuffed rabbit while everything she knew turned to ash. She had dedicated her entire life to making sure no other human child would ever experience what she had experienced. And she had succeeded. Under her watch, humanity had not fought a single war. No species dared to attack them. The memory of what had happened to the Vorthons was too fresh, even after a century. Parents told their children the story. Leaders warned their successors. Everyone knew, you do not hurt humanity. But Sophie had done more than just protect humanity. She had changed them. 3 times during her command, humanity had learned of other species facing genocide. 3 times, Sophie had ordered the fleet to intervene. The first time was the Kalani, a small species that had been marked for destruction by a larger empire. Human ships appeared in their space, uninvited, and formed a wall between the Kalani and their attackers. The attacking fleet demanded to know what humanity wanted. Sophie's response was simple. Leave them alone. This is not your business, the enemy commander said. The Kalani are nothing to you. Today, they are something to us, Sophie replied. Turn around and go home. This is the only warning you will receive. The enemy commander thought about this. He thought about New Cascadia. He thought about the Vorthon Dominion. He turned his fleet around. The Kalani survived. They never forgot who had saved them. The second time was the Thoris, a peaceful species of farmers who had been caught between 2 warring empires. Both sides were willing to destroy them to gain an advantage over the other. Human ships arrived and declared the Thoris homeworld neutral territory. Anyone who attacked it would face humanity's response. Neither empire wanted to test that threat. The war continued, but the Thoris were left alone. The third time was the Remni, a species that had been enslaved by their neighbors for centuries. They had been broken and beaten and told they were worthless. Then human ships appeared in orbit, and Sophie Price made a broadcast that every Remni could hear. You are not worthless. You are not slaves. And if anyone tries to stop you from being free, we will be there. The slavers released the Remni within a week. They did not want to find out if Sophie was serious. These interventions confused the galaxy. Humanity had been so ruthless in their war against the Vorthons. They had shown no mercy, no forgiveness, no limits. How could the same species risk their lives to protect strangers? A historian from the Silvani Collective, named Dr. Samuel Blake, wrote a book trying to explain it. His conclusion became the most quoted passage in galactic literature. Humanity operates on a simple principle that other species struggle to understand. They will give you everything they have if you approach them as friends. They will take everything you are if you approach them as murderers. The choice has always been in the hands of those who encounter them. Sophie read the book when it was published. She thought it was mostly accurate. But it missed something important. Humans did not protect the weak because it was logical. They did not do it because it served their interests. They did it because they remembered what it felt like to be helpless. They remembered New Cascadia. They remembered the feeling of watching their home burn and being unable to do anything about it. They did not want anyone else to feel that way. On the centennial anniversary of New Cascadia's destruction, a memorial service was held on the rebuilt colony. The new domes were bigger and stronger than the old ones. The fields were green with earth plants. Children played in parks built on the same ground where other children had died 100 years before. Sophie was there. She had visited every year since she was old enough to travel on her own. She had watched the colony rebuilt from nothing. She had seen the first new children born there. She had been there for every memorial, every ceremony, every moment of remembrance. This year was special. This was the 100th anniversary. Aliens had been invited for the first time. Representatives from dozens of species had come to pay their respects. Sophie's granddaughter, Catherine Price, was the current Earth ambassador. She was chosen to read the names of the dead. It was a tradition that had been maintained for 100 years. She stood at the podium, in front of thousands of humans and aliens. Behind her was a wall with 12,000 names carved into stone. The sun shone through the dome and made the letters glow. Catherine began to read. The first name was Alice Abrams. She had been 34 years old. She had been a nurse at the colony hospital. She had died trying to save her patients. The second name was Benjamin Adams. He had wanted to be a starship captain when he grew up. The third name was Clara Anderson. She had been 72 years old. She had been a grandmother who made the best apple pie in the colony. Catherine read all 12,000 names. It took hours. No one left. No one spoke. The humans stood in silence, remembering their dead. The aliens watched, trying to understand. When she finished the last name, Catherine looked up at the crowd. Her face was wet with tears, but her voice was steady. We remember Alice Abrams. We remember Benjamin Adams. We remember Clara Anderson. We remember all of them. Every name, every face, every dream that was taken from them. She paused and looked at the alien representatives. 100 years ago, our people died here. They were innocent. They were peaceful. They were just trying to build a life. Someone decided that their lives did not matter. Someone decided that it was acceptable to burn them like trash. Her voice grew harder. We showed the galaxy what happens when you make that choice. We hope we never have to show them again. We hope that every species in this galaxy has learned the lesson. We hope that no more children will burn because someone thought they were worthless. She took a deep breath. We are not cruel people. We do not want revenge. We want peace. We want friendship. We want to build a galaxy where everyone can live without fear. But we will not forget. We will never forget. And if anyone ever attacks our innocent again, they will learn the same lesson the Vorthans learned. She looked out at the crowd one last time. We remember. We always remember. So please, for your own sake and for ours, give us no reason to remember you. The ceremony ended. The crowd slowly dispersed. The alien representatives returned to their ships with new understanding. The humans returned to their homes and their families and their lives. Sophie remained by the memorial wall. She reached out and touched one of the names. It was her mother's name, Margaret Price. She had died in the first minute of the attack. We did it, Mom, Sophie whispered. We made sure it could never happen again. We made them remember. She stood there for a long time, an old woman touching a stone wall, remembering a world that had burned when she was 7 years old. The sun moved across the sky. The shadows grew long. Eventually, Sophie turned and walked away. Behind her, the memorial wall stood silent and eternal. 12,000 names carved in stone. 12,000 reasons why humanity would never be attacked again. The galaxy had learned its lesson. The morning sun rose over New Cascadia like it did every day. The light came through the great glass domes and touched the green fields where earth plants grew tall and strong. Children ran to school, farmers checked their crops, engineers fixed machines. It was a normal day on humanity's first major colony world. Daniel Harper stood at his window and drank his coffee. He was the commander of the small defense station that protected the colony. He watched the people below going about their lives. 12,000 humans lived here now. They had built something beautiful on this world so far from Earth. His communicator buzzed. It was his second-in-command, Lieutenant Lisa Morgan. "Good morning, sir. All systems are normal. The supply ship from Earth arrives next week." Daniel smiled. "Good. Maybe they will bring real coffee this time." "We can hope, sir." That was when the alarms started screaming. Daniel dropped his coffee cup. It shattered on the floor, but he did not notice. He was already running to the command center. His boots pounded against the metal floor. Other soldiers ran beside him, their faces showing confusion and fear. He burst through the doors of the command center. The main screen showed something that made his blood turn cold. Ships. Hundreds of ships. They were not human ships. "What am I looking at?" Daniel demanded. A young soldier named Peter Grant looked up from his station. His hands were shaking. "Sir, they came out of nowhere. No warning. They just appeared." "Who are they?" "The computer says they are Vorthan, the Vorthan Dominion." Daniel had heard of the Vorthans. Everyone had. They were a reptilian species that controlled a large part of the galaxy. They were old. They were powerful. And they did not like other species. "Get me a channel to their command ship," Daniel said. "Now." Lisa worked her controls. "Channel open, sir." Daniel stood straight and spoke clearly. "This is Commander Daniel Harper of the United Earth Defense Corps. You have entered human space without permission. Please identify your intentions." The screen flickered. A face appeared. It was not human. The Vorthan commander had green scales and yellow eyes. His mouth was full of sharp teeth. When he spoke, his voice was like rocks grinding together. "Human," the Vorthan said. "I am High Commander Zrel of the Vorthan Dominion. Your species has spread too far. You are an infestation. We are here to clean you out." Daniel felt his stomach drop. "We have done nothing to you. We are a peaceful colony. We have families here, children." Zrel made a sound that might have been laughter. "We do not care about your children. We do not care about your peace. You exist where you should not exist. This ends now." The screen went dark. "Sir," Peter said, his voice breaking, "they are charging weapons." Daniel grabbed the communicator. "All colonists, this is Commander Harper. Emergency evacuation. Get to the emergency shuttles now. This is not a drill. Move." Through the windows, he could see people starting to run. Parents grabbed their children. Old people were helped by young people. Everyone moved toward the evacuation shelters where the emergency shuttles waited. But there was not enough time. The first plasma beam hit the main dome. The glass did not shatter. It melted. It turned to liquid fire that rained down on the people below. Daniel watched a playground disappear in flames. He watched a school collapse. He watched people die. "Return fire!" he shouted. The small defense guns of the colony opened up. They were meant to stop pirates and small threats. Against Vorthan warships, they did nothing. The shots bounced off energy shields like rain against a window. More beams fell. More domes broke. The air began to escape into space. People who were not burned began to suffocate. Lisa was at her station, tears running down her face, but her hands kept working. I am recording everything, she said. They need to know what happened here. Earth needs to know. Keep recording, Daniel said. Send it on every channel. Make sure someone sees this. Sophie Price was 7 years old. She was in school when the alarm started. Her teacher, Mrs. Adams, grabbed her hand and pulled her toward the evacuation shelter. Sophie held her stuffed rabbit close to her chest. It was brown and soft, and her mother had given it to her. "Where is my mommy?" Sophie asked. "She will meet us at the shuttle," Mrs. Adams said. But Sophie saw the fear in her teacher's eyes. They ran through streets filled with smoke and screaming people. Sophie saw things that no child should ever see. She saw people lying on the ground who were not moving. She saw buildings falling. She saw the sky turn orange and red. They reached the shuttle. Mrs. Adams pushed Sophie inside. There were other children there, crying and calling for their parents. Sophie found a seat by a small window. The shuttle lifted off just as another plasma beam hit nearby. The force shook the small ship, but it kept flying. It rose up through the burning atmosphere and into the darkness of space. Sophie looked out the window. She saw her home below. New Cascadia was burning. The beautiful domes were gone. The green fields were black. Everything she knew was dying. And above the burning world, she saw the Vorthan ships. She saw them clearly, against the stars. She would never forget what they looked like. The attack lasted 47 minutes. When it was over, New Cascadia was dead. 12,000 people had lived there. Only 206 escaped. Commander Daniel Harper was not among the survivors. He stayed at his post until the end, making sure the evacuation shuttles had time to escape. His last transmission was simple. Tell Earth what happened. Tell them everything. Lisa Morgan survived. She had followed orders. She had recorded everything. Every scream, every explosion, every moment of the massacre. She also recorded something else. She recorded the Vorthan commanders laughing as they watched the colony burn. They laughed like it was entertainment. When the footage reached Earth 3 weeks later, the entire planet watched. People gathered around screens in homes, in bars, in public squares. They watched New Cascadia die. They heard the screams. They saw the children running. They saw the laughing faces of the Vorthans. For a long moment, Earth was silent. 7 billion people held their breath. Then the anger came. Admiral Kevin Price stood before the United Earth Council. He was Sophie's uncle. His brother had died on New Cascadia. His sister-in-law had died. His niece had survived only by luck. The council members looked at him with hard eyes. They wanted answers. They wanted action. They wanted blood. "What do we do?" the council president asked. Kevin Price looked at the screen showing the burning colony. He thought about his brother. He thought about his niece watching her world die through a shuttle window. He thought about all the other children, all the other families, all the other dreams that had turned to ash. He spoke 3 words that would change the galaxy forever. We remember everything. The council voted that night. The vote was unanimous. Humanity would respond to this attack. But not like other species responded to attacks. Other species fought wars and then made peace. Other species forgave and moved forward. Humanity would do something different. Humanity would hunt the Vorthons until the end of time.